special schemes we have to hopefully reduce their bills should they meet all criteria. So you can imagine how swamped we get on a daily basis, especially with the billing season coming up. Next question. Where did I grow up and how did I like it? Any fond memories? Let me take a sip before we get into that one. I was born and raised in Beijing, China. I loved being the only child to my parents as a result of the one-child policy to keep a lid on our huge population. As someone born in the 80s, that was a law that my parents and all childbearing citizens had to adhere to. I enjoyed being the only child, but a part of me wished I had grown up with a sibling, as that would have made my childhood less lonely. My fondest memories associated with my time back there have always been spending a Sunday afternoon with my mother, going on one of her shopping sprees, and ending up in a Japanese hot pot franchise called Shabu Shabu, where we sat around an oval-shaped table shared by numerous random strangers, with each individual customer having a customized hot pot placed in the hole drilled on the marble worktop of the table, in which there is a small gas hob. I do miss the fresh ingredients we got to order, some of which I can't find in even the biggest Chinese supermarket here in the UK. But I guess for the most part, I do miss the bonding experience with my mother and the one-on-one time I had with her when I was back home. Okay, and next question. My favorite ASMR channels and non-ASMR channels. question personally. I think this is really digging deep in to my history and background. We'll get to that after a bite of bread. I was raised in Mandarin Chinese. That had been the only language I spoke until the age of 13, when I started to properly learn English at school. I was taught English initially by a fellow Chinese teacher for the first 3 years of my learning English as part of the school's everyday curriculum. I was learning it to do well in exams. Therefore, the focus of taking answers the other half of Alda Hernandez Villa's question and part of Sammy Joe's question about traveling. And the next question by Miss Tiffany is how my husband and I met. So I met my husband in a very unconventional manner. We met on the dating app Bumble when I was still studying for my master's, and we've hit it off from the get-go. We would have definitely been separated and been subjected to a long-distance romance if I didn't end up finding a job that gave me the work visa in the UK soon before my student visa expired. I'm still, to this day, having hair standing up on the back of my neck thinking about how much of a close call that was for us and how I would have been forced to go home had I not got a job that came with a visa sponsorship to stay just a week before my student visa ran out. When I was halfway through my work visa, my then boyfriend proposed to me on our trip back to China to visit my parents, and the rest is pretty much self-explanatory. Questions by Brandon Newman. How did you find adjusting to UK life compared to your home country, and what are the main differences you found hard to adjust to? I guess it wasn't hard for me at all, for the reason that when I first came to the country for a summer camp in Cambridge at the age of 15, I deep down swore to myself that I definitely revisit the country in my adulthood once again, and hoped it would be for good. I fell in love with the scenery, infrastructure, how people approach each other the first time when I came as a teenager, and my love for the full English breakfast when I was first served that at the canteen of Cambridge back then was instant. I had such a reverse homesickness when I went home from that summer camp. So when I came back to study at the age of 30 as a mature scholar, I got to look at all cultural aspects with a lot more perspectives. I would still say it hasn't been a hard adjustment for me in the slightest. That being said, I do at times miss how familiar things and people would feel to me if I were back home. Hope that answers your question. Questions by Sarah Ash XOXO. Do you and your husband have children? If you lived in the United States, which state would you like to live in? Would Happy ever be in a video with you, not just to the side of the camera? We don't have any children yet. We've been contemplating growing our family, but we don't know when that is. If I had the opportunity to live in the US, I would have to, sorry, that was the alert of email on my MacBook right here. Sorry, so if I had the opportunity to live in the US, it would have to be North California. much of a pet person for the reason that I have weirdly some intimacy issues when it comes to those fur babies. And my husband is allergic to cats, so dogs are globally known as humans' best friends. I do see myself getting a dog when we're older. Bucket list travel destinations: south of France, St. Tropez, Japanese city, Osaka, Lake Como in Italy. We'll keep updating you guys on this in the near future as the list will get longer as we watch more travel-based documentaries. What do you do for work? Someone beat you to it. Chocolate or vanilla? Tough one. Both. Why do we have to have one when we can have both? Do you prefer making talking or non-talking videos? From a personal point of view, I thoroughly enjoy making non-talking videos as I've grown up in a family upbringing influenced by the Chinese culture of keeping one's mouth exclusively utilized for eating when at a dinner table. So we rarely made exchange of words as we were dining as a family until afterwards. So talking while eating was hugely frowned upon. And now that I'm married to a man who grew up in the West, but surprisingly shared the same value when it comes to dining etiquettes, so he doesn't talk until after a meal has been finished. That's how he was brought up as a child too. But for entertaining and accommodating many of my viewers' preferences, I do whisper when eating, but I try to minimize it as I am still developing the habit of thinking of something to say when I'm stuffing my face. If you were to be on a cover of a magazine, which one would it be and why? Great question. Never thought of that and never been a magazine reader. The closest thing to a magazine I see myself on would be a Nando's commercial eating a peri peri chicken with so much passion. Is the glass half full or half empty? I'm hoping I'm approaching this question from the same angle as how it was intended, which I'm guessing is a psychological analogy for being positive or negative in life. I'm naturally a pessimist who tries and keeps a healthy amount of optimism in the everyday life. I believe in preparing oneself for the worst but hoping for the best, as life can hit you in the head like a flying frisbee, and I for one have been through my fair share of thin to appreciate the thick, if it makes sense. Question by Lily: where in the world would you like to live? Lily, if you've been here since this video started, you'd have your answer. Last but not least, questions by Dolce Foodie. Hi, Dolce. What's the weirdest food you've eaten, right? Regardless of societal perception of the food in any culture, how are you liking living in Britain? Has Brexit made any impact on your life? What's your favorite wild animal? What makes Uppy the best person in the world to you? I think the weirdest thing I've ever eaten would be rooster ground, also known as the comb. Back in China, we don't chop off the head of the rooster if we were to put them in a stew or a soup. Therefore, the rooster ground would have been cooked to the level of tenderness when it melts in your mouth, and sometimes you could find rooster